back. Utah is rich in oil and gas, and a lot of state lawmakers would like ownership of federal land so Utah can develop that energy.
But others argue the state's largest natural resource is tourism and recreation. Good for Utah's Kimberly Nelson went to Moab to find out what the balance is between energy needs and our cherished wildlands. Oil versus tourism. What's really good for Utah?
Each year, thousands of visitors flock to the Moab area for the breathtaking landscapes of the Red Rock vistas and the tranquil silence of the renowned state and national parks. Well, not always that tranquil. Visitors to Dead Horse Point State Park and Canyonlands National Park are now also greeted with the booming industrialization of the backcountry from growing oil and gas production.
Just don't understand why it's happening here.
Fidelity Exploration and Production Company, which currently has 23 producing wells just outside Canyonlands in an area known as Big Flat, says that's easy. This is where the oil is.
Recently, around 2008, production came back on in Big Flat area and probably delivered us one of the larger oil and gas booms that Grand County's had in quite a long while.
Grand County Council member Chris Baird says oil and gas operations bring in about $1 to $2 million for the county every year. But that pales in comparison to the area's other resource, tourism. Tourism and recreation bring in about $200 million a year to the Moab area.
The big question is whether or not the economic stimulus from oil and gas is going to create a bigger deficit in tourism because it's such a popular area for recreation.
Bill Rao, a member of the Canyon County Coalition for Pipeline Safety, says the risks outweigh the rewards.
This is a world-class landscape that you can't find it anywhere else.
Rao takes issue with Fidelity's new 22-mile-long natural gas pipeline that crosses BLM property just outside Canyonlands National Park.
We're along Dubinky Well Road, Grand County.
He not only worries about the dangers an above-ground pipeline could pose to mountain bikers, hikers, and ATVers that use the area, but also about the dangers that come from how the pipe was installed.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that it was stretched across the rock like this, where it's going to move and abrade. It's going to further cause corrosion.
We asked the BLM about how the location for the pipeline, which in several areas we noticed when unsupported over washes, was chosen. And they promise all the safety measures have been met.
The location of that pipeline was frequently reviewed and changed, taking into account cultural resources, roads, the best location to place a pipeline where it would have the most minimum disturbance on the resource.
Baird says it's a necessary evil. The natural gas, which is a byproduct of Fidelity's oil production, is currently just being flared off.
It is a waste of energy and an obvious source of pollution for us.
Some estimates say the wells in Big Flat oil field flared enough natural gas last year to heat 236,000 homes. Now the flames that were once visible from Dead Horse Point will soon disappear. But that's not the case for the oil wells that dot the landscape. Baird says they have just as much of a right to be there as you or I. In fact, many of the oil fields in the Big Flat area were established in the 1950s, before the national park was dedicated by Congress.
The reality is that most of the oil and gas asset is leased, and those operators have a contract to exploit that resource. It can't go away. It's not going to go away via any master leasing plan process. It won't go away as a result of congressional action.
So the question becomes, how do you balance both the recreation and energy resources?
We're not placing recreation any more important over oil and gas development, or vice versa. Oil and gas isn't any more important than the other.
With state lawmakers pushing for a federal land takeover, local officials want to be sure that in a place like Grand County, where they figured out a different way to make a living off the land, the more profitable resource wins out.
If we are coerced into facilitating an industry at the expense of another one of our industries that's more profitable, then we could end up trading a quarter in order to make a dime.
The BLM's Moab Master Leasing Plan predicts over the next 15 years, the drilling will grow to 128 wells. The average surface area disturbance for each well would be about 8 acres. And currently, 24% of BLM land in the area
is leased to oil and gas. 24% of all BLM area oil and gas production, and it's
1/4 of it,
likely
wow.
going to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously this has been a long-standing
Right.
fight here. Any resolution coming?
Likely no. Senator Mike Lee just 2 weeks ago tried to make an amendment to the act to basically allow federal permitting for oil and gas to go much quicker and require BLM to push through either a plan,
Yeah.
either to approve or deny it within 30 days. When I spoke with the BLM, they said that's nearly impossible. We need to go out there and make sure when we do put new wells out there that, you know, it's not going to endanger any
Right, right.
nature or, you know,
Right.
That's a lot of
recreation or
stuff to look
whatever.
at.
So it's definitely a still struggle. We don't have the answer, but that's the problem. We need to figure out what the balance is.
You and the rest of us will be here to cover it and keep track of it. All right, Kim,
right,
thank
thanks a
you
lot,
very
Ron,
much.
Kim.
Let's go over to Dan now.